Everyone talks about Mars like it's a postcard from the future. They show you glossy concept art, bright domes under a salmon sky, sleek rockets parked like cars, astronauts walking through red dust like it's a weekend hike. It looks brave, it looks clean, it looks inevitable, like next chapter of being human. And yes, it's romantic. The idea that we can just pack up our dreams, load them into a ship, and start over somewhere else. A fresh planet, a blank canvas, a cosmic reset button. But when I look at Mars, I don't see a destination. I see a physics problem. Not a how far is it problem. Not a how many months problem. I see a trap built into the structure of the universe. A thermodynamic and gravitational trap that doesn't care how inspiring the brochures look. So let's start with something simple. Something you can feel right now. Sit still for a moment and notice the chair under you. Feel the pressure against your legs, your back, your spine. That sensation has a name, weight. Most of us imagine weight as gravity pulling us down, like a giant invisible hand tugging at our body. But that picture is backwards. Einstein gave us a stranger truth. You are not being pulled down. You are being pushed up. The floor is pushing into your feet. The earth is shoving up against you constantly so you can remain still. On a deep level, you are experiencing acceleration. Here's a way to feel it. Imagine you're in an elevator floating in deep space. No gravity. You're weightless, drifting. Now imagine a giant hook grabs the top of the elevator and yanks it upward, hard. Suddenly your feet slam into the floor. You feel heavy. You feel weight. You feel pinned. Was gravity switched on? No. The elevator is accelerating into you. Standing on Earth works the same way. The ground is accelerating upward to meet you every moment because space itself is curved around mass. You feel weight because the planet refuses to let you fall along the straight line your body wants to follow. Now think about leaving. When people talk about going to Mars, they talk about distance, as if it's just a longer version of crossing the ocean. Like you board the ship, you wait, and then you arrive. But in physics, distance is not a number on a map. Distance is energy. To leave Earth, you don't just travel forward, you climb out of a hole, a deep, invisible hole called a gravity well. Picture a heavy bowling ball sitting on a trampoline. The fabric dips. Everything rolls toward it. That dip is Earth's gravity well. To escape it, you must climb up the slope. And it isn't gentle. The energy required just to reach orbit is enormous, around tens of millions of joules per kilogram. And that's not Mars. That's not the journey. That's not settling. That's getting to the front door. And here's the cruel part. Nature doesn't give you credit. You don't get to say, I'm investing in the future, or I'm doing this for humanity, and receive a discount. The universe demands payment now, in cash, up front, and the only currency you can use is fuel. But fuel has mass. That's the trick. That's the trap. You need fuel to lift your payload. But because the fuel has mass, you need more fuel to lift the fuel. And then you need more fuel to lift the fuel that lifts the fuel. It becomes a compounding debt. A snowball you push uphill while it grows in your hands. This is the rocket equation. It's not a recommendation. It's not a guideline. It's not something you can negotiate with optimism or branding. It's a law. And it says that to move a small amount of useful stuff away from Earth, people, air, water, machines, you must carry an absurd amount of propellant to pay the gravitational tax. It's like trying to build a skyscraper where every brick you place requires you to pay $1 million just for the privilege of holding it up. Eventually, you don't run out of ambition. You run out of energy. And yet, people still say we have to go. They say it's about survival. They say Earth is fragile and we need a backup plan, a second home, a lifeboat. But that argument hides a dangerous assumption that a planet is just real estate. That a planet is like a house you can move into if you have the keys. But a planet is not a house. A planet is a system. And you are not separate from that system. You are a product of it. Look at your hand. It looks solid. It looks like a thing. But zoom in and it's not a thing at all. It's a storm of motion. Cells, molecules, proteins, DNA, all vibrating, jiggling, colliding. Atoms in perpetual dance. Everything in you, every thought, every breath, every memory is atoms pushing and pulling. And your body is not a general-purpose machine. It wasn't designed for space. It wasn't designed for Mars. It evolved here. It evolved inside one gravity, under the protection of a magnetic field, breathing a very specific mixture of oxygen and nitrogen, drinking liquid water that falls from the sky, eating food grown in soil built by billions of years of life and decay. Mars is not a new neighborhood. Mars is a different operating system. And we are talking about taking the most delicate, most complicated machine we know, human biology, and plugging it into an environment it was never built to handle. Mars has about 38% of Earth's gravity on paper. That sounds fun. You imagine leaping like an athlete, floating longer with every step. It feels playful, almost cinematic, slow-motion hero shots against a red horizon. But your biology does not experience it as fun. Your biology experiences it as confusion. The human body is ruthlessly efficient. It does not waste energy maintaining systems it does not need. Evolution trimmed us down to what works here, on Earth. Not too heavy, not too light. Just enough bone density to stand under one gravity. Just enough muscle to move through thick air. Just enough heart pressure to push blood upward against a steady pull. Remove that pull and the body starts economizing. If your bones no longer carry full weight, your body asks a simple question: why am I investing energy in maintaining this heavy calcium structure? And begins dissolving it. Bone density decreases. Calcium leaks into the bloodstream. The skeleton, the very framework that holds you upright, quietly weakens. Not dramatically, not with a loud crack. Slowly, gradually, efficiently. Your heart shrinks because it doesn't need to work as hard to pump blood upward. Your eyes change shape because fluid pressure redistributes. Your inner ear recalibrates and sometimes never fully adapts. We believe we can offset this with exercise. 2 hours on a treadmill, resistance machines, strict regimens. Maybe that works for months, but for decades, for a lifetime, we don't know. We are taking a machine built for 1 voltage and plugging it into a different outlet, hoping it doesn't burn out. And gravity is only the first problem. The next one is quieter, radiation. On Earth, we live under a magnificent shield. A magnetic field generated by molten iron swirling in our planet's core. It stretches outward into space like a giant invisible umbrella, deflecting charged particles that stream from the sun and from distant exploding stars. Cosmic rays are not poetic. They are not symbolic. They are high-energy particles moving near the speed of light. Protons, atomic nuclei, tiny bullets. When one of these particles hits your body, it tears through cells like a microscopic cannonball. It snaps chemical bonds. It rips electrons from atoms. It ionizes. Your DNA, the code that tells your cells how to function, is struck. Now here's the miraculous part. Your body has repair crews. Molecular machines patrol your DNA right now, scanning for damage, stitching broken strands back together. It's astonishing. But those repair systems evolved under Earth's radiation levels. Mars has no magnetic umbrella. It lost its global magnetic field billions of years ago when its core cooled. The shield collapsed. The atmosphere thinned. The protection vanished on the journey to Mars and on its surface. The radiation doesn't politely tap at your cells. It rains down. The repair systems become overwhelmed. Errors accumulate. It becomes a statistical game. Maybe you're fine for a year, maybe 2, but probability is patient. Eventually, the machinery miscopies something important. And in biology, a mistake in the code is what we call cancer or failure or death. But suppose you survive the journey. Suppose you land. You build your dome. You seal yourself inside a controlled environment. You've conquered gravity and radiation, at least for now. You face something even more fundamental: entropy. The universe has a direction. We call it the arrow of time. It moves from order toward disorder. Imagine a brand new deck of cards arranged perfectly from ace to king. You shuffle it once. It becomes mixed. Shuffle it 1,000 times and it will almost never return to that perfect order. Why? Because there is only one arrangement that counts as perfectly ordered. but millions upon millions that count as mixed. The math favors disorder. That tendency is called the second law of thermodynamics. You cannot win against it. You cannot break even. You can only delay it. A Mars colony is a tiny bubble of order inside an ocean of disorder. Inside your dome, you must keep the air breathable, the water clean, the temperature stable, the pressure correct, the carbon dioxide low, the oxygen high. Every breath you take converts oxygen into carbon dioxide. That carbon dioxide must be broken apart and recycled. Breaking chemical bonds requires energy. Machines must do it. Those machines generate heat. They wear down. Seals degrade. Filters clog. Springs fatigue. And the machines that repair those machines also wear down. On Earth, the biosphere is massive. The oceans, forests, atmosphere, they buffer our mistakes. A tree takes the carbon dioxide you exhale and, powered by sunlight, turns it back into oxygen. The system is large, redundant, resilient. Mars offers no such buffer. You are inside a tin can. Every imbalance matters. Physics does not usually kill with explosions. Hollywood loves dramatic decompression, airlocks blasting open, instant chaos. But real physics kills quietly. A filter efficiency drops by 0.5%. A seal cracks microscopically. A chemical mixture drifts slightly off ratio. A cooling system runs just a little hotter than it should. Small slips. In a small closed system, those slips accumulate. Imagine a ratchet and pawl, a mechanical device meant to allow rotation in only one direction. You design it to prevent backward motion, to enforce order, but at the atomic level, everything jiggles. Thermal fluctuations shake the components. The pawl vibrates. The wheel slips backward a fraction. No machine is perfectly rigid. In a Mars colony, you are fighting that microscopic, jiggling with every system you build. And the universe has more fluctuations than you have spare parts. We talk about terraforming, turning Mars into Earth, but scale matters. Earth's atmosphere is not just gas. It's not a recipe you mix in a lab. It is the product of billions of years of geology and biology interacting. Volcanoes, oceans, bacteria, forests, sunlight, all stabilizing each other. Mars lost its atmosphere because it is small. Its gravity is weaker. Its core cooled. Its magnetic dynamo shut down. If you pump an atmosphere onto Mars, the solar wind will slowly strip it away again. It's like trying to fill a bathtub with the drain open. Yes, you can pour water in, but the moment you stop, it disappears. You are not just fighting distance. You are fighting planetary history, and history is stubborn. So why am I telling you all of this? Is it to discourage exploration? No, curiosity is sacred. Exploration is part of what we are. But curiosity without humility becomes arrogance. And arrogance, when confronted with physics, does not negotiate. It collapses. Mars is not just a technical challenge. It is a mirror. When we look at Mars, we see a frozen desert, a silent red wasteland, a planet that once may have had rivers and warmth, but now holds only dust and memory. And when we look back at Earth from that perspective, we should feel shock, because Earth is not normal. We behave as if breathable air is standard, as if liquid water is expected, as if blue skies are common across the cosmos. They are not. The universe is mostly vacuum, cold, dark, empty space. Where matter exists, it is usually burning plasma or dead rock. Earth is the anomaly. Earth is the statistical miracle. We are standing on a planet that already solved the life support problem. Perfect gravity for our bones, a magnetic shield against radiation, an atmosphere that recycles itself, oceans that regulate temperature, microbes that quietly clean up chemical messes. Do you understand how expensive that would be to manufacture artificially? We talk about building domes on Mars. We are already inside one. It's called the biosphere. And it took billions of years to assemble. There is also a deeper misunderstanding hidden inside the idea of moving to an other planet. We imagine ourselves as passengers, as tourists who simply happen to evolve here, as if we are separate from Earth and can relocate at will. But we are not passengers. We are an emergent property of this planet. You are made of Earth. The calcium in your bones was forged in ancient stars but assembled in Earth's oceans. The iron in your blood cycled through rock and water. The oxygen you breathe was exhaled by ancient organisms. We are the way Earth thinks about itself. To imagine we can detach consciousness from this context and transplant it to another rock is like trying to play a vinyl record with a laser pointer. The medium matters, the environment matters, the context is everything. Now let's go deeper into something people rarely confront: the horror of the closed system. Imagine a swimming pool, clear, blue, perfectly still. Now place a single drop of red dye into it. The dye spreads. It swirls into beautiful patterns. Eventually, the entire pool becomes faintly pink. Now try to reverse it. Try to gather the red molecules back into a single drop. You can't. The information, the structure, is gone. Not destroyed, but dispersed beyond practical recovery. That is entropy. That is what the universe does naturally. And life is the act of resisting that spreading. Your body is not just matter, it is structured matter. Highly organized atoms arranged in extraordinarily specific configurations. Space, on the other hand, is a bath of disorder. Vacuum, radiation, temperature extremes, it constantly pulls its structure, trying to scatter it. To stay alive is to constantly pump energy into yourself to maintain order. On Earth, the sun provides that energy flow. NTAs capture sunlight. Animals eat plants. We eat both. It is a river of energy moving through a vast system. Mars does not offer that river. You must construct it artificially. You must build the sunlight capture, the oxygen generation, the water recycling, the thermal regulation. Every step costs energy. Every conversion wastes some energy as heat. There is always a tax. Consider the air scrubbers inside a spacecraft. They take carbon dioxide, one carbon atom bound to two oxygen atoms, and attempt to break it apart so the oxygen can be reused. That chemical bond is strong. Nature prefers it intact. To break it requires energy input. It requires machinery. If the machinery falters, even briefly, carbon dioxide levels rise. Headaches begin. Dizziness follows. Blood chemistry shifts toward acidity. Your own internal chemistry starts turning against you. On Earth, if you trip while hiking in a forest, you scrape your knee. On Mars, if you trip and crack your visor, you die in seconds. The atmospheric pressure is so low that moisture on your tongue begins to boil. Your lungs cannot function. The physics of pressure, not hostility in the emotional sense, but hostility in the mathematical sense, ends you. This is not a wilderness that might spare you. This is an environment actively incompatible with your structure. And then there is the mind. The human mind did not evolve in metal corridors. We evolved in tribes, in green landscapes, under open skies, with wind in trees and the sound of water nearby. Put a small group of humans inside a confined metal habitat for 2 years. Paint the walls gray, feed them recycled air and processed food. We know what isolation does. The brain begins to distort perception. It hallucinates. It invents threats. It becomes paranoid. It fragments. The astronauts traveling to Mars will be the loneliest humans in history. When they look out the window, Earth will shrink to a star, a point of light. Everything you've ever known, every person you've loved, every song ever written, behind your thumb, ahead of you, darkness. Can the human mind handle that? Maybe. Testing psychological limits as much as technological ones. Some argue we must go because Earth is doomed, because we are damaging ecosystems, because climate change demands a backup plan. This argument is seductive and dangerous because it suggests escape is easier than repair. It implies that if we break this planet, we can simply purchase another. But there is no other Earth waiting. Terraforming Mars would take centuries, perhaps millennia. You would need to thicken the atmosphere, generate a magnetic shield, warm the surface, create soil ecosystems, establish a stable water cycle. It is a geological scale project. If we possessed the energy and coordination to accomplish that, we could fix Earth far more easily. Earth wants to be habitable. Mars wants to be dead. It is always easier to swim with the current than against it. On Earth, life is the current. On Mars, death is. When people compare Mars to the great explorations of history, they often bring up Columbus, Magellan, Shackleton, figures who sailed into the unknown. Yes, their journeys were dangerous. Many died. But they were still on Earth. They still breathed the same air. They still stood under the same gravity. They still lived within the same biosphere that quietly supported them. Crossing an ocean is not the same as crossing into vacuum. Space is not an extension of Earth. It is a different regime of reality. And perhaps that is the core misunderstanding. We assume the universe is friendly to life, that it is merely waiting for us to expand into it. But life is not the default setting of the cosmos. Life is the exception. The universe is overwhelmingly hostile to structure. It is cold, sparse, violent, indifferent. Stars explode. Black holes devour. Radiation tears through matter. Entropy stretches forward relentlessly. And in the middle of all that, a thin blue layer. A planet where water flows, where carbon cycles, where bacteria and trees and oceans collaborate in an intricate dance that stabilizes temperature and chemistry. We are not visitors here. We are the outcome. The philosopher in me sees colonization rhetoric and hears a subtle error, the belief that consciousness can be separated from context. But you are not detachable software. You are not a passenger who boarded Earth temporarily. You are what happens when atoms on this planet arrange themselves in a very particular way. You are the chemistry of oceans thinking. You are geological history becoming self-aware. To imagine that we can uproot this phenomenon and transplant it effortlessly to another barren rock is to misunderstand the depth of the integration. The medium matters, the field matters, the background conditions matter. Yes, perhaps one day we will change ourselves. Perhaps future humans will not be biological in the way we are now. Perhaps we will build machines that tolerate radiation, that do not require oxygen, that can endure centuries in deep space without psychological collapse. A robot does not mind low gravity. A robot does not fear isolation. A robot does not develop cancer from cosmic rays. Maybe our descendants will not travel as flesh and blood, but as circuits and code. That is possible. But for us, for these bodies made of water, protein, calcium, fragile DNA, our place is here. There is something profoundly beautiful about that limitation, because limitation creates meaning. If Mars is a trap, then Earth is a treasure. Think about the air you just inhaled. That oxygen was manufactured by ancient life. Forests and phytoplankton have been recycling this atmosphere for hundreds of millions of years. You are breathing history. The gravity holding you in your chair is not an inconvenience. It is a handshake from the mass of the planet, a silent agreement between your body and the earth beneath you. We speak about escaping gravity as if it were imprisonment, but gravity is what shaped our bones. It sculpted our muscles. It trained our balance. It allowed rivers to flow and rain to fall. Without gravity, there is no ocean. Without oceans, no chemistry. Without chemistry, no life. So perhaps the real adventure is not escape. Perhaps it is comprehension. Why does coffee cool down? Why is the sky blue? Why do atoms attract at certain distances and repel when squeezed? Why does entropy favor disorder? These are not trivial curiosities. They are the deepest mysteries available to us. Understanding the universe from here, from within this extraordinary system, is not a lesser adventure. It may be the greatest one. Tonight, step outside. Look up at Mars if you can see it. A small red point in the sky. It looks calm. It looks peaceful. But do not confuse sight. Lens with welcome. Mars has been silent for 4 billion years. No oceans crash against its shores. No forests breathe. No insects hum at dusk. It is magnificent in its desolation. We went to the moon. We walked on it. We left footprints and flags. And then we came home, because magnificence alone is not enough. Desolation does not sustain you. We should explore Mars. Absolutely. Send probes, send rovers. Learn everything we can. I want to know whether life once flickered there. I want to know what lies beneath the red dust. Curiosity is sacred, but colonization is not the same as curiosity. Colonization assumes compatibility, and physics is not sentimental. Physics does not grade on intention. It does not reward bravery. It does not care about optimism. If you get the calculation wrong, you do not get a poor review. You die. There is a sobering elegance in that. The fact that we are here at all, thinking, questioning, loving, is statistically extraordinary. Every second we exist is like winning a cosmic lottery. The temperature is just right. The pressure is just right. The chemistry is just right. The shielding is just right. We are living inside the only life support system physics has built for us so far, and it works flawlessly. Before we rush to abandon it, perhaps we should learn to appreciate it. Nature is not hiding from you. She is everywhere, in the cooling of your coffee, in the blue scattering of the sky, in the quiet pull of gravity, in the atoms vibrating inside your skin. You do not need a rocket ship to experience wonder. You need attention. Open your eyes. Look at the world beneath your feet and the sky above your head. The greatest adventure is not fleeing. Gee, this planet. The greatest adventure is understanding it and realizing how unimaginably fortunate you are to be a collection of atoms that can ask why at all.